Before I begin speaking, let us just take a moment, just a moment. Just stop wherever you are. Close your eyes. Just take a moment to mark a shift in your day. A shift from being focused on the external world to being focused on the internal world. Just for a moment, bring the awareness to your breath. Notice the way that it flows in and it flows out. Notice the grace of God that keeps us breathing, even when we don't remember to do so. Become aware in this moment what it feels like to be you, right here and right now. As you focus on the breath, notice that at the core of your being, there is actually a well of joy, a well of peace, and a well of stillness. Become aware of that place for just a moment. Gently open your eyes. My very respected and cherished friend, Sudindraji, Dr. Chandrikaji, and all of the colleagues, associates associated with the Observer Research Foundation, brothers and sisters. It's a really great joy and a great honor to be asked to come and to speak with you this evening. I've noticed, as Sudindraji said, I've been in India 14 years, and I've noticed over this almost decade and a half a phenomenal and sort of tragic trend. And it's a trend toward an increase of stress. Wherever you go now, it was always true in the West, but it tends to be, at least from what I've seen, a relatively recent phenomenon in India. That wherever you go, whatever day of the week, time of the day of the year, everyone is stressed. We should be worried about epidemics like dengue fever and typhoid and malaria. But actually, the epidemic of stress seems to be much more pervasive, and it tends to make us sick every day, every week, and every year. Wherever you go now, even in India, you start seeing signs and advertisements for stress management courses. My guru, Puja Swamiji, actually has started to laugh about this because he says, we manage things we care about. We manage our finances, we manage our wealth, we manage our accounts. Now suddenly stress has become something that has become so integral to the nature of who we are that we also have to start managing that. Why are we so stressed? We have more than our parents did, more than our parents probably ever imagined we would have. We're achieving more, succeeding more, obtaining more, but we're more and more stressed. There's a story of 3 men who were out on a boat in the middle of the ocean, stranded. And much like young children do with their bedrooms or with their beds, these 3 men drew these invisible lines in the boat so that each of them would have his own part. So they drew lines in the middle of the boat, and each of the men felt like he had his own part. One day, 2 of the men looked over and they noticed that in the 3rd part, a leak had sprung. But the 3rd man was just sitting back, not doing anything, and the boat was starting to fill with water. And the 2 men said, "What are you doing? Plug up the leak. We're going to drown." And the 3rd man said, "Oh, don't worry. It's only leaking in my part of the boat." Now, invisible imaginary lines or no imaginary lines, if there's a leak in any part of the boat, it doesn't matter how mazboot, how strong the other 2/3 of the boat are, that boat is going to sink. And we've actually started doing the same thing in our own lives. We've started compartmentalizing. This is my career life. This is my social life. And this is my spiritual life. And we pay a lot of attention to our career lives, our social lives, making sure that we're achieving what we want to achieve, that we're staying on top in every level, getting the right degrees, getting the right titles, being seen at the right parties, wearing the right things. But we're letting this leak spring in the spiritual part of our boat. And most of us think, well, that's all right. It's just that part of the boat. The rest of my boat is very mazboot, it's getting stronger day by day. But what's happening is we're sinking. And it's that sinking that is leading us suddenly and tragically to have to take stress management classes. But why is it started? Why are we leaking in the spiritual part of our boat? India is the spiritual nation of the world. The rest of the world turns to India for spirituality. How is it possible that now we are leaking in the spiritual side of our boat? What's happened to me, from what I've seen, is that we have literally begun to try to squeeze orange juice out of a cow. Now, a cow gives milk, which is wonderful, nourishing, nurturing. Orange juice is also wonderful, but you've got to squeeze oranges for it. It doesn't matter how adamant you are about getting orange juice out of the cow. It doesn't matter how much dedication or commitment or 24 hours a day you squeeze. It doesn't matter how much you pay that cow. It is impossible for a cow, even if it wanted to give you orange juice out of its udders. And that's what's happening in our lives. We're looking for peace, looking for joy, looking for real happiness, looking for meaning in our life, looking for fulfillment. But where are we looking? In the shopping centers, in the catalogs, on a shelf, in a store. We've begun to believe that somehow, if we only own this, or could achieve that, or had a bank balance of this much, or could drive this type of car, or got invited to that party, or had this title, then then I'd be happy. Then I'd be in peace. And it sounds absurd, but we actually believe it. Look at the advertising business. It's $1 billion industry. And if you want to sell anything, how do you sell it? Through peace and happiness. Let's look at soap, for example. What does soap do? It cleans us. So if I were going to do a truthful advertisement for soap, I would say, this brand of soap cleans you better than that brand of soap. But I don't. What do our soap advertisements look like? A beautiful woman is singing in the shower in the morning as she's lathering up in the shower, and she can't wait to greet this new day, and her equally beautiful husband comes into the bathroom and he's also singing, and then they walk out and miraculously her child is already dressed and ready for school and has had his breakfast. Everybody's happy, harmony. It's a soap commercial. But what are we selling? We're selling happiness. And it sounds ridiculous when I stand in front of you and say it, but if we didn't believe it, the people who wrote these advertisements would not be being paid millions of dollars for these advertisements. On some level, we see these commercials and we think, aha, that's the problem. If only I switch my brand of soap, then I too will sing in the morning. My husband and I will stop fighting. He'll also come in the bathroom singing. I'll stop having to drag my kid out of bed miraculously. He'll also be ready and have had his breakfast. That's what we're selling. Look at car commercials. I mean, what does a car do? Gets us from point A to point B, ideally safely in one piece. We should talk about things like airbags and seat belts and brakes, but we don't. We show pictures of happy families piling out of the newest model of whatever type of car it is. A car on the open highway. Freedom, peace, quiet. We're not selling cars and soap. We're selling peace. We're selling joy. We're selling happiness. And the reason that we're selling it is because we're all looking for it. If we had it within us, we would never believe that by shifting our brand of soap, we'd actually achieve anything other than perhaps being cleaner. There's a story of a woman who's in the middle of the road one night and she's bending down and she's searching for something. And a man walks by, a wise man, and he says, "Mother, let me help you. What are you looking for?" She says, "I've lost my key." "Oh," he says, "all right." He gets down and he also starts searching with her. And after some time, he says, "Mother, where did you lose your key?" "Oh, I left it in the house," she says. "Then why in the world are you searching in the street for it?" And she says, "Because there's this very bright street light, and inside it's dark. I have no light. So I thought, let me come out here under this very bright light where I could look." And he says, "Mother, go back inside. It may be dark, but an army couldn't help you find your key out here because it doesn't exist."